Well, it's only because I had to do that. I've knocked my garage down.
What do you mean you've knocked it down?
On purpose?
Yeah, deliberately, obviously. No,
You meant to knock it down. That's okay then.
Yeah, I knocked it down. We're going to build something new there. So I had to get all the stuff out, right? And there's quite a few things I just didn't bother. Hold on. You going to bed? Oh, Freya's awake. Oh, right. Well,
Uh-oh.
you know what that means, boys. Time for drinking. What you have? What are you drinking, Simon?
So I have a rye beer today.
Ooh.
It's an albino squid assassin,
Right.
from Brewdog. It's a bit of a strange one. 7.4%.
Another Brewdog. You had Brewdog last week, didn't you?
Yeah, I've got a box to get through. So.
Can you tell?
What about you, Tripp?
So I've got 2 drinks.
Oh.
So they call me 2 drinks Tripp.
Right. Yeah,
But it's mainly because I'm about to move house, so we're getting through the leftover alcohol.
Yeah.
So
You can't give yourself your nickname.
2 drinks.
no,
Tripp?
that's a drink from actually Big Sip Trip was my but okay, it's fine. I've got this, which is tequila. It's basically a margarita, where it's leftover tequila, which is actually quite tasty. Which I'm just.
I'd like to point out that's in a wine glass.
It is in a wine glass. It's classy. It's classy. And then for when that's finished, I've got a star of ramen, which is
Nice. Good choice.
a nice beer, really nice beer.
Very good.
Both hefty vessels. And what are you drinking, Hamish?
Wow. I have to say, Tripp, you've. I'll say. When we first started doing this, I thought, well, I reckon Tripp is a bit more elegant with his choices. He's like, nah, man, this guy's like proper. Whatever.
He's got like a litre of beer and a massive wine glass of tequila.
I'll just bug this out of the recycling bin, right? You never guess what? It's still got some left in it. Did you ever go out and just get like the leftovers?
Oh, what, like going around the pub just?
You're a
it's just the
minesweeper.
last little
Minesweeper.
leftovers before you leave the bar.
Yeah, I have done that before.
Uh,
Not in a long time.
I'm just winding
Last week,
you
mate.
up.
Not in a long time. Well, it's been lockdown, hasn't it? I haven't had the chance.
That's true. I've got a Candom Hell's Lager.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah,
I like that.
I thought it was appropriate because, well, since we're in Monarch season and I'm playing Shadow, so I thought, hey, let's dabble in Hell. And I was actually looking for too long in Tesco's about what to get, and I thought, I remember this back in my gig days when I used to play in Camden, and I thought this drink was really good, although I was really, really drunk, so I thought it was good. So we'll see if my memory serves me well.
Amazing.
Why not?
Ooh,
Yeah.
it reminds me of
Nice
Camden.
face.
Anyway, welcome back to Push the Point episode 3. Simon, what we doing?
Right, today we've got a pre-release recap because we've been lucky enough to play in some awesome pre-release events with local game stores, and I think we want to talk about it.
I think so.
We're going to move on from there to an interview with a bit of a flesh and blood superstar at the moment. We've got a tease for that later. And then we're going to finish up with some chat around Legendaries. And I know some people will have pulled some for their pre-release pulls this weekend, and congratulations if you have. But what do we think about Legendaries for the game as a whole, and especially the first edition versions of those? So we're going to have a bit of a chat about that at the end.
Cool. All right. Well, pre-release. Wow. It was really fun. I'm not really a massive sealed fan. Because I remember doing the sealed events for Arcane Rising, which was it sometime last year, Simon? I think it was.
End of last year, beginning of this year.
Yeah, Manuscrew. And I really just joined in because I just wanted the cards, right? And this was first edition Arcane Rising, back when none of us knew any better. And like, I just want some cards. And I suck at sealed so much, but this one was really good. I think the light and shadow thing is actually quite a really interesting concept. And I say that, and I'm not going to play any light heroes, so I just end up playing either Chain or Levia. And then you go, you shouldn't really come in with that mentality, because your card pool could be so dirt, and it's like, you shouldn't do this, and you're like, I know, but I have no choice, I think. So I suck at sealed.
I think it shows when Legend Storage Studios said that this set was built for limited play. I think it shows, and I've been very impressed with the mechanics and the interactions between classes and the light and shadow dynamic. I've been really impressed with how it works in a sealed environment, and I've enjoyed the sealed games I've had so far. Spoiler, I played 2. I came dead last in 1 and won the second. So tale of two events. But playing more sealed has now made me really want to play some draft with this set, and I think it's going to be an absolute different beast as well in draft.
Yeah, I think I've only played sealed on TTS, and I would say it's not a very... I don't really enjoy playing sealed on TTS. Building a deck on TTS is clunky. All sorts of stuff just tended to go wrong, and it just doesn't feel the same. There's the appeal of just opening packs and looking at what you get and working out how you want to build your deck that you just can't get on TTS, to be honest. So this was the first time I'd done sealed in real life. It was still over webcam, of course, and it was just such a much more pleasurable experience, just opening packs while everyone else was opening packs, waiting to see what people got, if anyone got anything good. It just felt a lot more special, and it was just so much easier to just have your cards. I mean, this is all stuff that maybe people were just taken for granted before, but just having your cards on the table and being able to build a deck with them is so much easier. So much quicker as well. So it really gives you a lot more time to think about how you want to build your deck. You know, you're not worrying about the mechanics of moving things around on TTS. I think maybe should we talk about what heroes we played in our pre-releases? So I know I only played one. Hamish, you played one, and Simon, you played 2.
I played 2 different heroes. And talking about Hamish's point on being stuck with a hero or forcing a hero, my first event of the weekend was absolutely that. LSS have said that for the pre-release events, the top light hero should get the light mat and the top shadow hero should get the shadow mat. So I went into my first event thinking I really want the Doomsday mat that was on offer because it looks awesome, and I really want that mat. So I forced a chain pile deck.
What does the pile mean?
So just basically checking all of your chain cards, all of your shadow cards, and as many generics as fit in a deck. So you might end up running between 40 and 45 cards for the whole deck rather than the minimum 30 lean deck that you'd expect. Okay. So I had plenty of chain cards and a few shadow cards, and it was quite a big pile. I think I ran 44 cards. But the issue I came up against, and Dan, you'll probably be able to tell me where I went wrong on this, because I had mostly blue and yellow cards for the Runeblade cards. So I didn't have enough power to force damage, and the breakpoints weren't the same. So I came out struggling to, even with the go again, I came out struggling to actually push through damage. And my opponents, Prism and Levia, were able to just soak up damage and then hit back for a big attack.
Yeah, so, and I also made a chain pile, but I had the benefit of a lot of good red blood deck cards that I was just consistently discarding off the top of the deck. And I didn't do amazingly. It was 2 wins and 2 losses, but I was looking back at the deck I built, and I really thought to myself, if I'd known what I was doing a bit more, because I'd never played chain before, and I went into this expecting to play Prism, which is the hero I was really drawn to, but I decided not to force Prism, and I went for chain instead. And I'm so glad I did, because I feel like I actually made a really decent deck for sealed. I had all the red power cards I needed, and I also had access to a lot of arcane damage, which seems incredibly strong in sealed, where there's so few ways for people to block that arcane damage. And I think with chain, that can really make the difference, because it means that they can't just block you out each turn. If you're able to put on that consistent arcane damage, you can keep chipping away at them. And the weapon is amazing for that, drawing a card from the weapon. But anyway, it was a really enjoyable experience. I went in planning to play Prism, and I decided to change, and I'm so glad I did. I'm completely converted on Chain. It was an incredibly enjoyable experience. Like, even the games that I lost, you just feel the design that went into Chain, and it's so enjoyable to just burn the cards off the top of your deck, play them, really have this feeling of I need to win. I can't play this out. I have to win. It really appeals to that concept that LSS have about there being no draws being bad, right? You win or you lose with Chain. There is no middle ground. Your deck is going to get burnt to oblivion, and you have to win before that happens. And it's just such a fun experience to play that.
I think you really, I think you pretty much summed up Chain very well, because I never really thought, like, when you're saying it, I was like, yeah, I can. I saw that because I also played Chain in my sealed event as well, and it is the whole, like you're saying, just burning stuff off the top of your deck, and you're like, oh crap, I'm the candle's burning both ends here, and you've got to go.
It's a countdown
you've got to
timer,
go,
isn't it? You've got,
and it's strong.
Yeah.
It is. It's a strong move, but you are also racing it against yourself. But yeah, I did. I was in Simon's boat, 3-1. Didn't do very well. Learning Chain it was good. It was just it was every turn. It was every game that I lost. It was like I was one move away, right? And it's just one of those things where you're like, yeah, that's fine. I got outdone in the end. Luckily, actually, I played one of each hero. So I was playing Chain. I played against Chain, Olivia, Bolton, and a Prism, just all in my 4 rounds, and it was a really cool experience to just sort of see how each hero sort of rolled. Olivia is very, very, very difficult to work. I think she can work, but it all depends on your pulls. She's like really, really dependent on your pulls.
I was going to say actually, and Levia is, I think the ceiling for that deck in sealed is super high.
Yeah.
I think the power that you could get with that deck is incredibly high, but you need everything to fall into place.
You do, don't you?
You need at least 10 or 12 6 power attacks, and you need go again, and you need good cards that you can play from the banish zone.
Yeah, she's not really a great sealed option. And on the other note,
until she is,
of course. I mean, if you've managed to pull what it is, do it, right, because she'll be insane. But on the other note, I think Prism is crazy. The cost to power ratio, the value of her cards when they come swinging is just bonkers. And what makes it even more crazy is because how we were discussing about Levia being slightly awkward, her real counter is just too awkward to manage, so she's kind of left, kind of unchecked in a way. So
yeah,
I've just noticed that there's so many Prism decks, and when you feel like there's a win, if someone's won, Simon, what you just think it's probably Prism, right?
So what I would say about that is, I think again the floor for the Prism deck is much higher. So because of exactly what you've said, the cost to damage ratio or potential is so outstanding. Like you're paying two resources for a 6, 7, maybe 8 attack with this keyword Phantasm, which is really important. So if it gets blocked with a 6 power attack or more, it instantly closes the chain, destroys a card.
Yeah, and it ends your turn there and then.
And it ends your turn. So these are potentially risky cards, and I think in constructed games that's going to be much harder to overcome. But it's exactly what you've said. In sealed, the main threat is Levia, and you need a really good Levia pool to get that deck to work. So there aren't going to be many people playing it, and then you're left with the 6 attack generics, things like Pound for Pound, things like Rally the Rearguard, which are good cards in their own right, but you're not going to have loads of them, and it's going to come down to just blocking out these big attacks and trying to hit back.
Yeah.
So I think I did see plenty of Prism mirrors over the weekend, and I heard about people playing these Prism Mirrors, where obviously Phantasm really isn't relevant because you can't use an Illusionist attack.
It would just be the most boring game in existence.
Yeah.
I hit you, I block, and I hit you, I block. Nothing happens.
But that being said, I don't think the ceiling for the Prism deck is that high. I think there's a pretty narrow band. It's relatively easy to pick up with a moderate pool, but I think it can be outdone with really good pools by Bolton and Chain and Avaya. But overall, bringing it back round and wrapping this all up, overall, I've been so impressed with the pre-release weekend, and I know we're very fortunate to be able to play those events.
What events? Sorry, what events were you going to? So I was thinking it'd be cool to do some shout outs to the stores that we took part in.
My first event was Underworld Games, which is a local store to me in Nottingham, in the UK. And my second event was at Boards and Swords Hobbies in Derby, which is just half an hour drive away. Again, local only, pick up. And two great events. The atmosphere was great. The games were really close and really great, and I just want to, both of those get a shout out from me.
What about you, Tripp?
Yeah, my one was Underworld Games as well, and it was an amazing experience. Honestly, one of the best evenings, most enjoyable evenings I've had in Flesh and Blood. I just found it just so much fun to play. Just really fun, a really fun evening. Great games with everyone I played against.
Yeah.
And where were you, Hamish?
So I had I took part in Mana Screws. That was really, really good. It was, I think, for me, it's not a criticism to Mana Screw at all, but webcam events and sealed was not highly my jam. I thought the webcam stuff in skirmishes were perfectly fine, and I think it's because I knew all the cards, but I did have a bit of a rough time trying to work out what was going on. But again, sealed going forward, it'll be great when we meet up in real life. But
I think that's a fair thing to say, and we don't want to talk about it for too much longer. But it is hard, and I think it relies on players to be really honest with each other, really declare your triggers and read out your cards to your opponent, and just be really open about what you're trying to do, and don't try to sneak anything through.
I think that's a really important point.
So Mana Screw was other than that, amazingly well run event. Of course it would be, because it's Mark and he's got an absolutely fantastic store that's been there for 10 years. He's been doing events for so long. It didn't surprise me at all. It ran absolutely great. We have recorded this on a Tuesday, so I have got another pre-release event to go to at Kingdom Games. So shout out to Adam at Kingdom Games. I'm sure, again, the event's going to run really well. You've done loads of different events on the Discord, so I know that's going to run well. So if it comes out and it runs terrible, oh well.
So my last shout out for this segment is going to be to the organised play managers at Legend Storage Studios, Alan Hale and Kieran McKentigart, who pulled out all the stops. We had a bit of a scare from our UK distributor that the stock wasn't going to arrive in time, and there were some rescheduled events. However, everyone pulled their finger out. LSS, distributors, game stores pulled out as much as they could, and we managed to get about half of the pre-release events that were due to happen over the weekend occurring, and I think the community definitely appreciate that. There's been so many good words to give to the people involved in getting that sorted, and Legend Storage Studios triumph again and get things, make the best of a bad situation.
Absolutely. I think it was just because I was going to say there was one more event that I was meant to go to on the Saturday, which again, because of all this, which was times that in, it was a tabletop. Top Deck In. Top Deck In was meant to do theirs on the 1 o'clock on the Saturday, but because of all this stuff, it was a bit of a nightmare to try and get sorted. So it didn't happen, but I got my pack. So Top Deck In was really, really actually just so good. They just informed me what was going on. They kept me in the loop the whole time. So it's a shame I haven't really been a part of one of their events yet. But the store owner who kept on top of me seemed generally quite sound. So if you're in the Milton Keynes area, I'd highly recommend going down to Top Deck In to get your Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, and I also want to give a shout out to Top Deck In because they organised a skirmish as part of the skirmish season, and they have basically made it so that everyone who took part in that skirmish season was able to pre-order a box of first edition Monarch, and I just think it's fantastic that Top Decking have put the players first, and at retail, it should be said, just which is also very nice. And I just think it's fantastic that they've decided to make that call and give players the product, and I just want to give them a huge shout out for doing that, because they didn't have to do that. And I don't know, a lot of players have been having a lot of trouble getting hold of first edition. We've talked about players in first edition in the past, but it's still nice to have a couple of cold foils in your collection, even if you're primarily a player. So I think that's a really good thing that Top Decking have done.
Nice.
Do you know what's really awesome about our UK scene at the moment is that actually the local game stores that we know and that run events regularly have been doing absolutely that, and they've been looking after players. And I've been very fortunate to get a number of boxes from different game stores local to me at retail price or near enough. And game stores don't have to do that. They are well within their rights, and I think a lot of the community would agree that having game stores survive lockdown and be there when things open up again is really important. And if they needed to charge a bit more for boxes to do that, that would be absolutely appropriate. But the majority of game stores that I've had contact with have been selling at retail price, or thereabouts.
The thing is that selling at retail price is actually something that all stores would actually just love, like, to just do in general, right? If they can bring out product and sell it for what the recommended retail price is, instead of what this, the race to the bottom that most of the LSS has to do when it comes to Magic or Games Workshop products or pretty much anything. Right, it's generally a race to the bottom, because they go, oh, this guy's got to do it cheaper, so I've got to get it at that price.
Yeah.
And then it's always someone trying to do it cheaper, to the point where someone's just selling the product for a $5, and then they've got to try and live off making this stuff being sold for a $5. So the fact that they can go, hey, I know that selling for recommended retail price sounds batshit insane in this game, right? But if I can sell all of this stuff for the retail price, this is good. This is actually generally just good business for me. And if I can just sell it to players and they keep coming back, that's long-term investment business. It's not crazy to think that it's mad to do that. It's generally a really good call for stores to just sell it at retail price. So
and I think it's building a huge amount of trust within this community, and those stores are going to get people come traveling for events, and they'll travel a reasonable distance to play those events because
it's long
those
term.
Stores have looked out for them in the past.
Happy customer you're going to get more money from someone that wants to keep coming.
And we've said it before as well, there's also just the fact that if you're a new player and you get yourself a box of first edition and you manage to pull something crazy, and you can sell it, and that can fund your investment in the game for a really long period of time, and that's a good thing to do, and that gets the player in, and it gets them the cards that they need to build a good deck, and that's great. And if the new players can't get the first edition product, they don't have that way of getting into the game effectively for cheap, because you've only had to put in a relatively small investment, you've pulled really luckily, and you can sell, and then you can buy into the game properly, which is really good.
So we're going to take a bit of a break there. I've been very fortunate this week, or the end of last week, should I say, to have time with, as I said before, a superstar in the Flesh and Blood community, and someone that has been, if you haven't played in an event with this guy, you probably haven't been playing events at all. He has been grinding. He has been in literally every event that I've ever been to. But that player is Dante Delfico, who is a Canadian player who has recently reached 1,000 XP, and I was very lucky to be able to interview him this week for Push the Point podcast, and here it is. How are you doing today, Dante?
I'm pretty good. Thanks for having me on. Big fan of the podcast, so this is pretty cool for me. I'm with a celebrity right now.
I appreciate that, dude, and you are the celebrity right now. So we've got a few questions for you today, Dante, and again, thank you very much for your time. I know you're a busy man, and you could be playing right now, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.
I feel like I don't play as much as you think.
Well, I've seen you at the event. So just tell us, just by way of introduction to yourself, how did you get into Flesh and Blood? What sparked this endeavor for you?
Sure, yeah. So, one of my friends, his name is Demos. He is also one of the like top Canadian players, I would say. But he basically moved to New Zealand for about a year or so, just to travel and enjoy life. And when he was there, he started playing Flesh and Blood because it was a brand new game back then. He comes back to Canada. He comes over to my house, shows me the game. I'm like, all right, this is kind of fun. And then we found a local game store that had, well, not a local game store, they're about an hour, but they had it. So we took a drive up there, played in one tournament, and then after that I was hooked. There was no chance for me. As soon as I got back into playing in a tournament, I was like, oh my god, that was so much fun. Even though I lost, I think, every game, or maybe I won one by decking somebody out and playing like a coward. Didn't matter to me. I won a game, so that was it.
Was that a sealed event or limited or?
No, it was constructed. So I didn't have any cards at the time. I was using Demos's cards. So he was playing a budget Guardian deck, and I was playing budget Warrior. And like these were like heavy budget. Like we didn't even have all the rares. There were no Crucible of War cards, and the people that were playing against had full kitted out decks. They're all running like their cold foil tunics and their bracers and their Tekla Foundry hearts and all that.
Oh,
We're
jeez.
just getting absolutely stomped.
And when was
But it
this?
fun.
Like, what time of year was this?
I think it was back in like maybe August, I want to say. I
Nice.
could look in my gem, but I'd have
So
to pull it
yeah,
up, but I think,
Perry release of Crucible of War, right?
yeah,
um,
yeah.
And then I think I first came up against you in an event maybe October November time on TTS once things had started to get quite.
It was the first one, I think. You guys, I don't remember. I can't remember. I think it was a sealed event, if I'm not mistaken. Sealed. Welcome. No.
We definitely know from the interview with Shingo recently that you were at one of our like starter deck tournaments.
It was the starting event. I remember it because I was messaging you, and I think it was sealed because my opponent didn't connect, and like my first messages with you ever were like, "Yo, my opponent's not connecting. What do I do?" And you were just like, "I don't know, make a deck." Like,
Yeah, do this. So yeah, we've been playing for quite a few months on and off now. Like you've been quite big in the UK community and the UK events, definitely when we were getting started up. Like what have you enjoyed about the UK community events, and how does it feel to be sort of part of a community that's not your home nation?
Oh, I absolutely love you guys. I love playing at all your events. Everybody in the UK is super friendly. You guys have taught me a lot. I mean, like, it's weird when like a top player says like, "Oh yeah, I learned a lot from like other people." But like playing in your events, it's what like helps me get better. It like playing against people that you don't normally play against once a month or once every couple of weeks, like I was doing with the events that you guys were hosting. It really helps because you get an idea of different play styles, different decks. You guys had a very, like for Blitz, for example, you guys had a very dominant like warrior meta, which wasn't the case in the Canadian scene. So pre-skirmish, when I would join your events, I was only playing against warriors, and that got me a lot of practice against the warrior decks. And then once skirmish season hit, turns out the US meta is exactly the same, and everybody's on warrior. And it really helped having all that experience beforehand, just from playing against so many different people, so many different play styles, different decks that they had. And knowing like what the break points in the matchup were. So it's like a super friendly community. Plus, you guys are good players too. And what's not to love? You're playing against good players and you're having a good time doing it. So
we try our best. Yeah, we do try our best. And as you say, I think we'll pop back around to this a bit later on. But the individual metas that we've come across, Canadian, US, UK, and more general, have been really interesting to be a part of and to get experience in. You mentioned getting some practice against a warrior there. You're obviously well known for playing Ira. What made you stick with Ira throughout your grind to the 1000 XP? What made you love that deck?
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit before we actually started the interview process, but I was talking about how I'm mostly a control player. I've kind of been that for most of the card games that I've played. I just like control, and it's not so much control anymore, the Ira deck, but it started as a control deck, which is what I really liked, and it kind of drew me towards it. And then, I don't know, I just never wanted to switch off. I tried playing Warrior for a little bit. I almost switched to Warrior. There's actually a funny story about that.
Yeah, go
Sharif
for it.
is the
Yeah.
one that made me not switch to Warrior.
Damn
I
you,
played
Sharif.
Warrior. I was so sick of Ira because I found the Warrior matchup was pretty tough before I had really gotten the hang of it, and I thought that Warrior was free wins. So I basically just said, you know what, I'm just gonna go play Warrior because it's easy and I know I'm gonna win the mirror because I'm probably a better Warrior than most of like the Canadian players that are out there right now. And then I just get free wins against Ira because nobody really knows how to play against Warriors Ira. And like at that time, I hadn't put like the springboard somersaults and things like that into my deck back in the drone meta. So it was a tougher matchup, and I wasn't too, like I said, I was good at the matchup, but I wasn't great at it. So I switched to Warrior, and my first match is against Sharif, but he decides to switch to Ira for this time.
Oh no.
Oh my god. And I remember my first hand had like 2 routes in it or something like that, and I just swung my sword naked, just bare sword swing. And obviously first turn you always overblock, so my plan was to play 2 routes on his overblock and just call it a day, and do like 9 damage to him turn 1. This guy says no blocks. I thought he had a defense reaction, so I passed the reaction step.
And nothing. He just lets it
Then
slide.
he passes. So he just takes 3 damage turn 1. I'm caught with 2 routes in my hand. I Arsenal 1 because I'm a dummy, and I didn't get it out for the rest of the game.
Oh man.
Oh my god. And then after that, I said, I'm never playing this deck ever again. So Sharif's the one that ruined me because he literally made the dumbest play turn 1 I've ever seen in my life, but it ended up being like genius. And that is why I'm still on Ira today, because Sharif just had to do me dirty like that.
So really what you're saying is we've got him to thank for your skirmish dominance. Like how many skirmish events did you win in the end?
I think I've won 9 total.
Wow.
But I've top 8'd all the ones that I've played in.
That's just phenomenal consistency. And I know from playing you time and time again, the Ira Mirror is just an awesome matchup, but you have such a handle on it. It's so hard. Epitomized by a semi-final we had in one of the last skirmishes where like a single misplay, 1 point of damage here or there, and it swung and it went. So yeah, thanks for being such a great opponent through skirmish season. Congratulations on the 1000 XP and your 9 skirmish wins. I think that's phenomenal. Did the skirmish lucky draw gods do you well, or
They did me okay. I've gotten 2. There's 1 prize coming today actually. I might hear the doorbell.
Oh, nice.
While I'm doing this interview with you, but I've gotten 3 cold foils and 2 mats. So
that's pretty good. You can't complain about that.
No, I can't. I mean, there are people who have been in 5 skirmishes with 5 prizes. I've been in skirmishes with
Oh jeez. Anyway,
4 prizes or whatever it is. 5 prizes, I guess, myself too. But so I have 2 mats now. I don't know what to do with the other one. I'm trying to sell it. If no one wants to buy him yet.
Yeah.
You know my Discord.
Just a quick plug. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I got 2 Katsu so far. The third one's a mystery. I really wanted a Dorinthia and a Dash. I was able to trade a Katsu and a Data Doll for a Dorinthia. So,
Nice.
I have my Dorinthia now, but I really want my Dash, so I'm hoping that the last one that comes in is a Dash. Or
I've got 2 on the way
I
as
can
well.
trade.
I just can't wait to see what they are.
Maybe I trade you.
Well, maybe. So just moving away from skirmish season, obviously things are changing now, and we've got a new set coming out, but also there are places now starting to open up that were sort of limited to online play only before. Unfortunately, I know Ontario isn't one of those places just yet, and
No, sir.
I do actually wish you all like the best of health and stay safe over there. I've got friends there and I see what's happening. But what are your thoughts, Dante, on the like international online scene right now? Because things are going to go back to local play at some point. How do you think things are going to change?
I feel like there will still be online tournaments that run. just because of the success of them. I feel like game stores kind of, when there's no tournaments going on like a specific day, I feel like some game stores will hone in on that fact and be like, okay, so there's a lot of people who want tournaments on Sundays, but they have no LGS to go to that has tournaments on Sundays. So why don't I run an online tournament on Sunday, and then I just collect my $5 entry fee from everyone and like profit hard. So I feel like there'll definitely be online events that are still happening, so we'll still get to face off from people all around the world, whoever wants to participate in those events. But I definitely think that things will slow down in the online scene. Obviously, people are still going to chat over Discord, and there'll still be testing groups and things like that. But I feel like there's going to be less tournaments, but there still will be tournaments for the most part, just not as many as there are now, obviously.
Yeah, I think that's a good point about the game stores, and I think if we as players can help game stores with events and stuff right now, I'm all for it. I think even with a return to in-person play, a lot of people might not feel comfortable doing that straight away either. I'm very fortunate. I've had both my vaccine doses, but not everyone is.
Nice.
It is.
Rub it in. All right. No flexing here, man. Come on.
Well, you get to flex about your wins. I get to flex about a vaccine, eh?
All right. True. Fair.
So, what about you? Are you looking forward to getting back in person, face to face, in front of someone, chucking down some cards?
Yeah, I can't wait. I find that like online Flesh and Blood is fun and everything like that, but I feel like in person is a whole different experience. It's hard to explain, but just like being able to like see your opponent, there's like it's a whole different ball game. Plus, when you're in person, you can actually like look at what they're pitching and kind of track their pitch and understand where things are in their deck. I find that that's a lot harder online. I don't know. I just think it's going to be more fun. Like I've had a lot of fun playing online, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be playing. But when I was playing in person, I thought that was like the pinnacle of my Flesh and Blood experience. I thought it was the most fun I've had with the game for sure. And I didn't even know how to play at the time, so.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I think maybe there'll be a few more mind games as well. Body language comes into play.
Oh, for sure. I can't wait. Like people are gonna see me at my saltiest when they like OTK me on Runeblade or something, and I'm just like, oh my god. But then I can't like just leave the Discord call and like nobody knows really how salty I truly am while I'm like pacing back and forth and like swearing.
I was gonna say there are pros and cons, right? Because
yeah,
you have to, in real life, you have to really keep it reined in.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll have to shake their hand and look them in the eye and say good game, even though maybe I don't feel that way.
That's a fair point. And we mentioned the new sets coming out now. Monarch, Monarch is basically dropping next week. Pre-releases are this weekend. How are you feeling about the new set, the new metas that are going to pop up? Where are you heading?
I can't wait. I am so excited. I got a pre-release tonight. I think I have 2 pre-releases tomorrow and then 1 on Sunday. I'm all set. I'm dialed in for the Monarch release here. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know. It seems like the set is very good for limited play. So sealed and draft seems like it's going to be amazing. I don't know how much it's going to shake up the like classic constructed meta or the blitz meta. There might be like 1 or 2 decks that sneak their way in, but I feel like most will be unchanged for the most part, because not like obviously classes didn't really get any new cards. I haven't taken a good look through all the generics yet, and a lot of the generics still haven't been spoiled, so I'm not sure exactly like what will be good in what class. I think there's a new Majestic that's really good for Guardian. It's like 7 damage with Go Again if you reveal.
I did see that. It's something about
or something
like waking the old ones, or
yeah, something like that. It should be cool. I don't know. I feel like there's going to be a lot of like tech that you can throw into your existing decks that'll kind of spice them up a little bit. But yeah. I feel like what's good in the meta right now might stay good. I feel like Dory might fall off a little bit. I feel like Dash might fall off a little bit. But I feel like, I don't know, like Rhinar got pulping. It's kind of good. It's kind of a good card.
I was going to say the Brute's got some decent cards.
Yeah,
obviously
limb from limb, pretty good.
with your control hat on, maybe Prism's going to appeal to you. I don't know.
Yeah, I wasn't so sure about Prism, and we're recording this on Friday, for those of you who don't know. But basically, the New Zealand scene just had their first like pre-release round, so we've seen the remainder of the legendary cards. And now that I've seen the illusionist boots and the generic light armor, I'm all aboard the Prism hype train. I think that might be my control deck for this format, so we'll see. Even if not, it might be my fun deck for the format, but I'm definitely going to be building it, so I'm going to be trying to get my hands on some cold foils in the coming weeks for the deck.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try and stick with a bit more of a wide approach. Whether I give Katsu a chance in the new meta, I don't know. I think Classic Constructed, is going to be coming back round again, so it might be worth getting the Katsu deck back out. But of the new heroes, Bolton appeals to me. I think his go again from Soul strategies might be worth the look, and those axes look devilishly good with things like Spill Blood, so I think might be worth it.
I've played some like tester games, I guess, with some of the new cards, and I'm gonna tell you right now, man, get your hands on those boots while you can, because they are really good. I was using them in a Kasai deck.
Oh wow, yeah.
Just like with Kasai, I swear to you, I blocked like 8 damage with the boots in one game. It was nuts.
Well, that's huge as well, right?
I mean, it was crazy.
That's half your health again in Blitz.
Yeah, it was pretty nuts. The boots are very good if you're focusing on like a very go wide swing with the axe kind of deck. I think there will be different ways to build Bolton. Obviously mostly focusing on the soul, but if you're taking a go wide approach with the axes and kind of refreshing your boots every now and again, those boots are, wow, they're good. They are good.
And I think, as you said, like this is all going to be geared towards sealed, and the new calling events in New Zealand, Australia later in the year are going to be limited, sealed and draft. I really enjoy that type of gameplay and the deck building aspects of it on the go. As we've said, I just can't wait to get back to in real life play, and who knows, maybe in a year's time we'll be facing off in a calling internationally somewhere, Dante. I can only hope that I can get one over on you in real life more than I've managed to do on TTS.
And I hope so. Calling London, here I come.
Yeah, London Calling. The Clash want their record name back, right?
Anywhere in the UK, I'll be there. I'll get to meet all my friends. Oh.
Well, yeah, as you say, hopefully we'll be able to sort of continue some online play, and I know we'll be playing casually, if not competitively, on TTS for months to come. I just want to say thank you, Dante, for joining us today and giving us a bit of an insight into how you've been getting on. And I really look forward to playing you again in some of the new events coming up. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem at all. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Mate, that interview was sick. I've just been, after just hearing it through, I've never actually managed to get an opportunity to really chat to Dante, but he sounds like an amazingly, really cool dude. And he seems to show up to every UK event. Come live in the UK, Dante. We would love you here.
Well, we've been playing with Dante for months, haven't we? Like, he just comes to all of our events, and it's nice, like, because he's a very generous player. Like, he will give you advice, and he's more than happy to tell you. Like, you can go to him and say, well, what do you think about this card? What do you think about this? And he will be very open about it. He's not someone that tries to keep his strategies to himself. He's very talkative, and he likes to help other players get better at the game. And we were talking about it and like, about bringing Dante on, and we really said, like, well, he's a part of our UK community. He's been playing in our UK tournaments since I started.
Since the beginning.
And we consider him part of our UK community because our community is international, and that's just how Flesh and Blood has been since I got into it, which has been during lockdown. It's been an international game where we've had players from all over the world joining in our tournaments and making us better at the game. You know, playing against the best players in the world has made us better at the game. So huge thanks to Dante for taking part in our tournaments, as far as I can say.
And make no mistake, he's an absolute stone cold assassin in the Iron Mirror, and he will not give you anything during the game, but he'll be quite happy to teach you what you did wrong at the end of the game. So.
Yeah, that's fair.
Hey, that's always the way, right? You can only get better if you play against better players. So
Exactly.
yeah, I tell you what, it'd be really cool actually to see if he's up for it, to see what's going on down in the Canada meta. So he can touch back in and just let us know what's going down in Canada, in his local area. But I'm going to press. I reckon we should press on to the more potentially controversial topic of legendary equipment. But before we do that, let's do some nice things. Let's do some shout outs.
Sorry, you really got me there. I was like,
what?
time to take a big drink of the beer. It's time for the controversy.
Time for some.
And I was like, it's going to be the nice. We'll do the nice bit first.
We'll do the nice bit first before we plunge deep into hell. So one shout out that I've got is if I probably pronounce your surname wrong, I do apologise. It's Stephen Novatovsky. And he's the guy, if you're on the Facebook groups, you saw him, right? He does these leather playmats, and they are absolutely sick. I reached out to him and said, this stuff is just awesome, right? If I wasn't even doing this podcast, I thought, I don't really usually reach out to people, but this guy's so cool, and this stuff he does is so awesome. I've got to just tell him this stuff is awesome. And he really just detailed, showed me his process of how he does it all. And I was just like, oh my God, where do you live? Oh, of course you live in the bloody States. I want one of them. And it is going to be a hell ride to get one of those mats in. But my God, if you haven't checked out his stuff, go look on the Flesh and Blood fan page on Facebook. His mats are just the coolest. I haven't seen anyone decide to do leather work, like really hands. I think he does it all by hand. It's absolutely crazy. So that's my shout out to him. You know, top bloody crazy stuff. I don't know. It's just awesome.
Amazing. And I want to do a shout out as well, which is very recent from today, in fact, which is
You're not allowed. I'm joking.
I'm not allowed. Oh, okay.
Fuck it.
Cut it.
Do
it live. Do it live. No, I want to do a shout out to Fabio from Living Realms, who was just because he was selling today the Blitz decks for Monarch, and he was selling them on sale, and he was doing an amazing price for them. And I just think it's fantastic that he is selling these decks at sale for new players to get the decks to play Flesh and Blood for the first time. And it's so good to see retailers supporting things that are encouraging new players into the game. And I think we should be acknowledging that and thanking him for doing it and just shouting him out for it. So Fabio, thanks for doing that. We really appreciate it, because bringing new players into the game makes the game more enjoyable for us who have been playing the game for a really long period of time. Like it just makes the game bigger, and it makes the scene bigger, and it's fantastic to see that.
Now, are we going to have some more of Dan Tripp's fantastic voice with some of his latest video?
Oh, you know what? Fuck it. Yeah. Let's get some more in.
Yeah, we can.
Go on, Dan Tripp. Which one are we going to do?
Well, no, we've got Prism. We haven't done Prism yet. We did.
Oh, we haven't done Bolton either.
We haven't done Bolton either. Ooh.
Oh.
So I'll tell you what. You two can decide which you would prefer. Do you want Bolton or do you want Prism for the segment?
I think we've talked enough about Prism already.
No, hang on.
I think we need Bolton.
Go on then. I was going to say we're just going to just randomly flip.
Well, we'll do Bolton and
Prism next time.
We'll do Prism next time.
Here we go.
Wings of flame, wielding a golden sword, and the story goes as follows. The herald then turned her gaze to the land stretching beneath her, and they watched as it turned to ash and dust. All living beings shriveled beneath the weight of the shadow. As darkness spread across the land, she lifted her sword above her, summoning the light of the sun. The sun revealed a small figure who stood within the shelter of Bellona's wings, and illuminated Ios's shining smile. For just a moment, he could have sworn he heard the whisper of Irina's voice echoing in his ears, and caught a glimpse of her healing hands outstretched, ready to help those in need. From this, we and Bolton can take three things. That Sol had great plans for Bolton, and would aid him in his quest to vanquish the shadow. Secondly, that Sol would protect his son and shelter him. And lastly, that the voice and prayer of Irina would always be through Bolton, through darkness and light, and carry him forward on his great journey into the heart of darkness. Light, brushstroke of creation, and Irina, always in his prayers.
The last segment of I did say it was controversial. Is it controversial?
You did say it's controversial. I think it is controversial, and it's legendaries in the game. And I know we said legendary equipment, but it's not just equipment anymore. We've got 2 legendary specializations that are at the rarity of legendary.
I think it's actually the concept of legendary itself, right? It's something that I posted up on the UK Discord, and this, to be honest, what I first want to do is I don't want to piggyback and steal what the other content creator called Noxious.
Noxious.
Yeah, go watch his video, because it's his actual brainstorm topic, right? And we're just kind of expanding on it, right? But so go really honestly watch his video. It's like 20 or something minutes long, but this whole thing is really, really, really interesting, and it's well worth a watch. He's bringing out the point that he thinks legendaries for new players is probably it's a little bit too chase card. I don't know, too detrimental in a way, because, and his point behind this, and I thought it was completely right. It's when you actually start a new game, right? When you're coming on for your first time playing Flesh and Blood, and let's just say he's playing against, you, Simon, right? A new player comes and plays against you in a game of Blitz or even Constructed, and you're going to put all your cards down, and you're probably going to play Katsu because you love Ninja, right? And then, lo and behold, you flip over all the equipment, and what have you got? You've got Mask of Momentum, and you've got Fyendal Spring Tunic, and probably, some other 2 equipment cards, right? And he's just going to look straight away, just look at your 2 legendary equipment cards and just go, right, well, they're crazy cards. They're crazy rare cards. It kind of just sets that tone of, I need these cards in order to compete. Plus, these cards are so characteristic. There's so much flavour behind these really rare cards. That kind of really makes the character who it is. All these generic stuff is cool, right? And they've got their own power levels, but it's the real essence of what this class is meant to be, and it's kind of a bit of a turn off. And I know that from personal experience, from very, very first time seeing this game. I love Viserai, and I saw that there's this one legendary card I need to get, and I thought, 120 quid just to get that piece that's clearly something that he needs. It's his it's his equipment at the time of me playing.
It's a terrible card.
Yeah, I know that now, but when you're new. I'm talking about this on the basis of you're brand new seeing this stuff, and it's overwhelming. And yes, Command and Conquer and E-Strike and all these other cards, they cost a fair amount of money, and you need 3 copies of them, but you don't see them, right? You don't see it, and they're not the things that bring a lot of character to the class. But I just think legendaries are too expensive and too far and few between for new players to get into.
I think that's a valid point. I think you can't really argue the fact they're not expensive and they're not
even the unlimited ones.
Good cards, like even the unlimited ones are sort of £100 to £150 depending on the card.
And you're not going to open a box, are you? You're not going to buy a box, which is a £75 box, which is quite a lot of money, and feel the odds are you're not going to get it, right? You just tell anyone you won't buy a box to pull a legendary, buy a crate, and now you're talking 300 quid.
And that's not the average player, is it?
No.
That's not the average player. But having said that, if you are getting into the game and you are looking at the game seriously, so if you get past that point and you think, well, actually, yes, there are these chase cards, but I want to look more into the game itself, and you start playing the game with welcome decks or whatever without these legendaries, and you get to know the game and you love the game like we all did at the beginning, then actually you realise there are pieces of equipment, commons, that will do the job that you need them to do. And it's not a massive detriment in decks that you need them to work in. I agree, and I tell you what, it's the points that Noxious makes on his YouTube video is actually like, you can actually tell people that 100 times that all this legendary equipment is not essential, but
let's just say this person never jumped into our UK Discord group, right? He heard about Flesh and Blood on a YouTube video and went on the website to come and have a look at it, and he saw the art straight away. Loved the card art, loved the direction, because it has the card art on the hero's description, right? All the cards that are cool and makes this character who he is are there. That's really cool. I want to get into this game. I'm just going to jump on and see how much. Fuck this game.
Yeah.
You know, and that's before they even decided they want to really jump in. So, and the reason they cost that high is because it's just, you need to buy 4 boxes to have an opportunity to even get one. And I think that the scarcity of even unlimited cards kind of just makes those prices go as high as they are. And for us three, we look at them and we, you know, back in the day before we played this game, £100 for a card was pretty much unreasonable. We're now how many months into this game, and £100 for a card is bloody cheap.
So you've hit the nail on the head. When I first got into this game, paying £100 for a box of Arcane Rising First Edition was a ridiculous prospect.
Yes.
And I had to be strong-armed into doing it with a friend of mine, and we split the box and took 2 heroes each.
Yeah.
And then suddenly 6 months, 8 months, 9 months later, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll buy a case of this and a case of that.
You will.
And I'll buy that card, and I'll buy an Arcanite Skullcap Unlimited for 130, £50.
I did that for Spring Tunic.
How ridiculous is this? But the only reason I'm doing that is because I love the game, and I want to be able to play the game at a competitive level.
But it's big. That's the cost, right? That's the cost.
That's the cost of playing it at a competitive level.
And that's the thing.
So I think
if I wasn't
sorry,
so
Tripp,
OCD,
yeah, I've been sitting back here. You guys just been chatting to each other.
Is
So
that
I think
tequila kicking in?
I'm gonna say something. So I think there's a couple of things here that I just want to say. Firstly, I think this conversation about Legendaries may have been warped a little bit by the prevalence of Blitz as the main format for the last few months of Flesh and Blood. So equipment in Blitz is incredibly impactful, and the Legendaries up until now have all been equipment. If you have the legendary equipment, you will do better in Blitz. I think that's a reasonable thing to say, and I'm not entirely sure if that carries over into Classic Constructed as much.
It does. It does over in the long run. When you've got cards like Spring Tunic, which is literally a perfect card for a Classic Constructed because the games are running longer, a card that has a tick over mechanic, the resources you can get from that in a constructed event is really good.
Yeah, Spring Tunic is a very good example because of the long term value and the once per turn effect. So that's fair. That's fair. But I think also you two were touching upon it, and it's this: when you first get into the game, are you playing it at a competitive level, or are you getting into it for the first time, or are you building up to that competitive level? And we have to remember that Flesh and Blood is a trading card game where you have a random chance of getting cards. It's not a game where you just buy and you have access to everything. There's this element of building up the power of your deck, and there is an enjoyment in that. So when I first started playing, I didn't have I wasn't able to buy the power cards, and I was building decks that built around so that I didn't have to use Spring Tunic because it was too expensive. And there was an element of, I've invested a lot of time into this game now. I feel like making an investment in a card such as Spring Tunic is a good investment because this is going to take me to the next level of competitive play. And I think we can be reasonable and say that if you're getting into the game for the first time, you're not going to be as competitive. And that's part of taking part in a trading card game in TCG, where you actually have to trade and find and work your way up to the better cards. You can't just expect to buy a product and have the most competitive deck from the very beginning. And if
you haven't played an LCG, have you?
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're not that. That's not what Flesh and Blood is.
I know.
And if you're expecting that, then as sad as it is, that's not what this game is. It is a game where you have to trade your cards, and that's really tricky to do at the moment because of lockdown and COVID. It will get much easier to do. But
what about the flavour of a legendary, right? The flavour of what the legendary cards offer. is probably one of the most flavorful part of the character, right? You know, Scab Skin Levers for Brute is a really, really, really like brute looking equipment character card. It's the and most of them are equipments that are the first thing that you see when you put your deck. You know, when you have all this stuff together, the equipment really does show off a massive part of the character of who you're playing, right?
Well, you might have noticed I didn't mention that.
Oh, I'm
because
sorry.
I agree with you.
This is the beer. Sorry.
So I didn't mention that because I completely agree with you, and I completely agree with the video that was proposing that. And the cards are so tied to the characters. You know, something like a Mask of Momentum is so tied with the gameplay of Katsu and going really wide, and I guess possibly one of the ones that's least tied is Dorinthia. The Braveforge braces, they're like a nice upside, but they're not for Dorinthia. It's really the boots, right? That's what is part of the game plan of Dorinthia.
Even the Courage of Bladehold.
Yeah, well, now we're getting onto that's technically a Majestic, so we can't talk about that. So.
Oh, yeah, true. Sorry, yeah, that doesn't count.
But no, but exactly, it's like these cards really define the characters, and you know, like even like Grasp with the Arknight with Viscerai, which you know is maybe not the greatest card in the world. It's so flavorful, like you said, and you know you feel like you're starting the game by creating your first rune chant, and then you're building up and up and up and up from that, and that feels very much like how Viscerai would actually be fighting. Would be gradually increasing the number of rune chants and then blasting you with all of them. So that I completely agree that the legendary cards are almost too tied to the characters, in that you feel like if you don't have the legendary, you're not only not playing the character at its full meta power, which I'm not so concerned about because that gives you the opportunity to build up to that, but there is an element of you feel like you're not actually playing the hero as it was designed to be played. You feel like they designed the heroes to use these legendary cards and you don't have access to them.
That's what I think.
But I think there's an element here of, yes, it's a chase card, but also that this is a game where, as you've said, Tripp, you are a hero, a full hero facing off against another hero. And it's not like other TCGs or CCGs or LCGs, but you are starting at your most powerful, and the equipment you have is on the field for most of the game, if not all the game. And there's a sense of this sort of video game RPG around it, where between events you are powering up your deck, whether that's by trading the cards or buying the cards. You are going out of your way to power up this deck. And personally, I didn't start off as a collector, but as we've spoken about before, there's a huge satisfaction of when you manage to either pull a card from a pack and trade it for one that you want, or you buy a card that you want, and you have that gratification of being able at the next event to put that down as part of your deck, and it's on show for the whole game. It's not like a Command and Conquer or an E-Strike, which is a fantastic card, either of them.
Yeah,
but it's hidden in your deck. It's hidden in your deck, and you might not come across that. It might be buried at the bottom of the deck for the whole game. The chase cards that we have at the moment, these pieces of equipment, are on show for the whole game. And I'm not saying they're cheap, and I'm not saying that they're easy to get hold of, but there is that element of you strive for that next piece of equipment. You are
It's
enticed.
almost like you're leveling up in the game.
Yeah, exactly. You're leveling up, and you're enticed to open more boosters and to get this and get that.
But that's all good in
it.
That's all good in a single player, like, you know, feeling of you're doing that right. But I think when you're actually just going to show up, to be honest, you're going to show up to an event, and you may just feel, it's that feeling of, oh, but I don't have it, I can't afford it. It's I don't know.
And when you win without it, it is even sweeter.
Well, I reckon that was pretty controversial, actually. Episode 3, a more heated debate, lads. A more heated debate. I think not everyone agreed on possibly everything, especially the legendary stuff. Maybe we all did. Hey, comment. YouTube, Spotify. Can you comment on Spotify? I don't know.
You can't.
Try. Oh, you can't. Well, no. Give it a go. Give it a go. See what happens. If you join the UK Discord, message us. It's BigMedSi. Is it Dan Tripp? Dan Tripp
Tripp Fyendal's library, mate.
Oh, Tripp's Fyendal's library and Hamsack. Tell us your thoughts, and we'll give you a shout out in episode 4. So
yeah, and
don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah, and a huge thank you to everyone that's been watching and listening to our content. It means a lot to us, and all the great feedback we've had. We've had some really good feedback on the podcast, and just keep giving the good feedback. That's all I'm saying. We enjoy it. It drives us forward. If you've got anything you'd like us to cover, any questions you'd like us to look at, just let us know, and we'd be more than happy to.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised I'm not shit-faced.
I think you've held it together much better than last time.
It was good. I'm doing well. I've only had 2 cans. That's mad.
Whereas Tripp's drinking out of a litre bottle now.
Oh my god,
it's gone straight.
I'm surprised it's not a funnel somewhere.
It's a Euro pint, 660 ml.
Oh dear. Alright, see you in a bit.
Bye.
See you later.